Welcome back to the project. A few weeks ago, we finished up our drywall, so we're moving on to the finishes phase. We started last week exposing a lot of brickwork, but we have a ton of steps to actually finish the brick. I've acquired a handful of tools and various liquids for the finishing process, and we're gonna start off the week doing a little test to see how hard it's gonna be to get this brick looking right. The ultimate goal here is to make this brick look the same as this brick, and then seal it all up. So our first step is using this abrasive stripper disc to try to get off a lot of this excess mortar. As it turns out, using an abrasive disc on old masonry is kind of controversial, but a YouTuber I like, Mujin, did it, and what better place to get your information than YouTube? In reality, the choice was between this and using acid to clean off the excess mortar, and for whatever reason, I felt less comfortable with the acid because I don't know what it's doing. At least with the abrasive method, I can check my progress, making sure I'm not grinding too much into the face of the brick, rather than being worried that I'm trapping acid deep in my bricks for my walls to deteriorate for the next decade. Next up, we've got a big brush, soapy water, clean water, and I'm gonna wet the bricks before I put on the soap. I think the main goal here is to try to get all this kind of dark, sooty, black stuff off the bricks on the right, and these ones are already pretty shiny and clean. This is starting to look pretty good. You can see the line between has gone away. This side got lighter, this side got darker. With the abrasives, I just have to be super careful not to grind too far into the brick. These bricks here where I use the angle grinder look really good. Like there's no sign of chipping and abrasion and scratch marks. I think it's bound to happen if bricks are a little bit softer. They might get a little more scratched. Generally, I just think the abrasive method is a little bit more predictable than the acid. So this is the method I've chosen. So quick order of operations. We can use the angle grinder to get all of this mortar off, which creates a lot of dust. And then we need to sand down all the old beams because that also creates a lot of dust. And then we can clean all the brick to get all that dust off the brick and then seal the brick. The order of operations is important here. I discovered something that might actually help me save this wall. This wall is different than the other brick I'm exposing in the house because it was once exterior, but with my new addition, this became interior space, so I'm removing the stucco that was on this exterior wall, but because it's a Portland cement-based stucco, it caused major spalling in this brick. There, over here, I mean, Spall City, baby. Now this is interior space, so the brick degradation has stopped, but it looks very different. You can see because of the spalling, there's this rough surface, and these bricks down here are nice and smooth. But I realized with the abrasive disc, there's really no risk with these bricks because they've already spalled, they already lost their faces. And I can actually use the abrasive disc to flatten out the spalling, and it almost makes the brick look new. Of course, we need to patch areas like this where we've totally lost the bricks, but let me show you what I mean. Look at this section here. All right, well, after a whole lot of dust, maybe it's an overstatement to say it looks new or not spalled, but I think that flattening out a lot of these spalling sections, especially when the spalling isn't too bad, it actually brings the brick back to a decent state. Well, that created a terrible amount of dust, but I think it's looking pretty good. I didn't vacuum up top, so don't worry about that. It's pretty crazy how white the mortar is. A lot of contrast, and there's a lot I could still clean up. I think I was careful enough with that abrasive disc. There's no crazy gouges or anything, but sometimes it is hard to get, like on the edge of a brick if it's set back from the mortar. So yeah, there will be a lot of little fine adjustments, and I didn't really finish down there. But all in all, looking good. This process quickly became pretty tedious, where I'd have to grind stuff off, make a lot of dust, and then vacuum up the dust to see what the brick is looking like, and then grind more where I need to. Of course, this spalling wall gave me a ton of trouble, and it's almost impossible to make it look good, but I replaced a couple bricks and just held on to hope to the idea that I might be able to expose this wall too. I realized pretty quickly that it would be impossible to make this wall look exactly like the other walls apart from replacing almost every brick, so I decided to just parge with a lime-based plaster all the deeply spalled faces, and I'm trying to lean into this semi-distressed brickwork kind of look. We'll see how it turns out. Yesterday, I accidentally forgot my mics, so it was more of just a time-lapse type of day, but let me show you what we got done. This wall on the first floor is coming along. I'm considering leaving a little bit of ruggedness to this wall and transitioning it into the clean wall. We'll see. I need to vacuum off dust to see how it looks, but that's kind of pending. Another thing, I've noticed a little bit of this kind of light residue from where I tested washing it with soap. So I think I just need to rinse this out a little bit more. We'll see, but I'm gonna do some more tests just to make sure I get it right before doing the whole wall. Not much has happened here on the second floor, but lots of work up on the third floor. Starting here, I did a lot of the brick cleaning, getting a lot of this plaster residue off, and I think it's looking pretty good. All right, so here up on the third floor, the idea is to let this dry and then use the grinding disc and just kind of make the whole wall flat and have this parge settle into wherever the gaps are. So I think it'll look a little bit better than how it looks right now. And maybe later I could kind of paint the parge spots. I don't know, it's really, really tricky. Welcome to my West Philly apartment. As you can imagine, I've been burning a whole lot of calories renovating the house, and I was actually losing a lot of weight kind of in the middle of the project because I just couldn't keep up with eating because I was too busy to grocery shop, and the result was just eating frozen dinners and PB&J and eggs. That's not very sustainable, which is why I'm really excited to work with today's sponsor, Hungry Root. Hungry Root basically becomes your personal shopper and nutritionist as they send you a great selection of meals for the week in a box just like this one. It's a great way to eat healthy because none of the food they ship will include any artificial sweeteners, preservatives, or bad things like high fructose corn syrup. In this busy time of my life, I really appreciate that most of the meals take less than 15 minutes to prepare. Take advantage of this exclusive offer, get 40% off your first box, and get a free item in each box for life. Click the link below or go to hungryroot.com and use code ChrisHytha. That's 40% off plus a free item of your choice for life at hungryroot.com and use code ChrisHytha. Thanks again to Hungry Root for sponsoring this video. Let's get back to it. Seeing it all together, it's definitely going to be a challenge to make all this kind of read uniformly and a lot of scrubbing and whatnot. But I think today we're going to start on finishing this parge coat here. So I'm going to get a straight edge, finish the parge coat, and then let that dry, come back for the finish coat, and that'll tie things together nicely here. Last week we got started on this plastering job. You might be wondering why not just expose all the brick? Well, where I'm plastering used to be a chimney. You can see some black residue on the wall from the old soot, and also the brick got kind of mangled from the chimney. Before I start with plastering, I'm going to get this straight edge in. Alright, so it's pretty tight down at the bottom. There's a little bit of a gap down here. So I think even if plaster slips under this, I guess I'll just have to clean it up on the edge when I'm done. And that's fine. We're making some good progress with these other brick walls. Now we got to focus on this forgotten old plaster wall. Got to do the same thing, take off the plaster, clean it up, eventually seal it, and I got to move all this stuff out of the way. Whew. Ugh. Man, this wall is putting up a fight. It's a little more challenging than the other walls. And I think this was built later, but it does look like similar types of brick, but I'm noticing some patches that are a Portland cement, the harder cement, as opposed to a lime plaster. So this stuff is a lot harder to chip off the bricks, but we're getting there. I know I have a little bit to patch over here, and up in this corner is pretty gnarly. We're gonna have to patch that as well. Man, still plenty of masonry work. The top, boy, it's just such a hard Portland cement material. And it's really peculiar that there's different materials. My guess is that the top plaster just didn't hold on and was flaking off. So at some point, probably in like the 70s when this place was renovated, they just parged it with a Portland cement just at the top. But it does seem to be like a very clean line where it's Portland cement above, plaster below. It's a little peculiar. Let me just show you what I'm dealing with here. All right, this hammer drill is getting super hot. I need to give it a break. I need a break. So I'm just gonna clean this up, move on. So we need to chip away at sanding all these ceiling beams here and also up on the 3rd floor. And I did a little bit here. You can see it's slightly different color. I think I'm gonna go with just a clear polyurethane to seal in any dust. And you can see there's a lot of little spackle bits and general imperfections. Of course, you want to keep some imperfections because they're old beams, but a sand couldn't hurt. I'm going to try a 80 grit on the orbital sander, and then I'll use the oscillating tool to kind of cut in closer to the edges. Whew. Man, look at this. This is ridiculous. It's crazy. It's a deceptively hard job. It's just like, oh, sand the beams, no problem. But when you get into it, just holding a tool above your head, that time lapse was like an hour, hour and a half, and I did one, maybe 2 beams. I have a lot more to do. Really quickly, I stopped using the orbital sander for many reasons. Just wasn't as effective. It is more dangerous. It flings things at you more. And the oscillating saw is a battery, so no cable. And also it has a light, which was super handy. And it's honestly really great. I've never used it to sand before, but being able to get up into the corner to clean up the joint between the wood and the drywall has been working beautifully. And as dusty and strenuous as the job is, it is really exciting to get this final sand on these beams, to get rid of all this grime that's built up, to clean off little splotches of spackle, and it's finished work. The next day, I embarked on my third day trying to get this plaster off this wall. And I think in renovation videos, you know, when things are time-lapsed, you just don't see the pain and the arm soreness. And it's easy to romanticize renovations, but I assure you, it's a lot of work. I think on this wall, I spent at least 10 hours trying to scrape plaster off the wall. It wasn't easy, but we got it done. Yeah, check it out. We're done the hard part. So I'll be honest, I'm not the best at working smarter, not harder. I'm kind of willing to suffer, unfortunately. So if the job's hard, sometimes I'm just inclined to push through rather than think about it. But I thought about this one because it was really hard. And when you're using the wrong technique, it feels impossible. Like there's no give. Every little bit of mortar is stuck to the brick and it's inevitable to just chip off the faces of the brick. But when you do it right, it starts to get a lot easier. So what I learned, number one, making little islands of plaster, and then it has less surrounding structure, so it's more likely to vibrate and separate as a whole section. The next thing is I started using this sharper bit, which is great because it removes the really hard plaster, and I learned to just run this down the mortar beds, and that way you can get underneath the hard plaster and pry it out without damaging the brick. But also this has a lot more force because it's a smaller surface area, so it's easier to damage the brick. But at some point I just gave up trying not to damage the brick at all. There's a little bit of damage, it's fine, it's whatever. Gotta crack a couple eggs to make an omelet, you know? And this was the other bit I was using before, and it just was not enough. It just would not do anything on the harder section at the top. I'm feeling good about it. I'm gonna try to use the grinder again to try to clean up some of these brick faces, see where we can get. I didn't have quite enough sand to finish the whole finish coat, but I decided to add the finish coat up on the straight edge so I can remove the straight edge next week so I can finish with the brick. And there's so many spots where I could have been lazy and not filled in certain holes or certain bricks, but because I'm going to be living in this house, I know these little things will bug me. So I did a lot of work just patching bricks, cleaning things up, and getting this ready for a final cleaning and final sealing next week. I'm already noticing the huge difference between rough carpentry and rough-in phase versus the finish phase. I find myself being pretty neurotic, overthinking decisions and wanting things to be perfect because I know what I'm doing right now and how I'm treating these bricks is going to be what I'm going to be looking at for probably the next decade in this house. So I really want to get it right. With that, I'll see you next week. Thanks as always for watching.